Man, somehow this movie made me a little glad that I was single. Still sucks though. Also, Jesus Christ, I forgot how bloodshot red these glasses were.
Can't take my eyes off of you. You'd be like heaven to touch.
Hard Eyes is out in theaters right now and comes to us from the writer and director of both Happy Death Day and Freaky, Christopher Landon. But just to clarify a little bit better, he's the writer of the movie, but not the director. When the Hard Eyes killer strikes Seattle, a pair of co-workers pulling overtime on Valentine's Day are mistaken for a couple by the elusive couple-hunting killer. So, I've got a weird question for you guys. Have you ever went to the movie theater and as you're walking down the hallway to your auditorium, you just see that one certain poster, and just by looking at said poster, you can kind of tell that that movie's going to suck? Well, without any knowledge of the movie prior to seeing the poster, that was very much me with Hard Eyes. When I saw the poster for this slasher flick and saw that it had an early February release date, I thought that this just looked like another crappy throwaway holiday-themed slasher flick that was cashing in on a beloved but also suck-ass holiday. And before you ask, no, I was not thinking the same thing when Thanksgiving was coming out because I knew the context behind that movie. Another bit of information that you need to know is that I never once saw a trailer for this until about a week ago when I saw it in front of Companion, but that was only just the teaser trailer and it doesn't tell you much. But just from that teaser, I can tell you what the general consensus was gonna be, but again, I didn't know much about it and I thought it still looked like crap. Then to my surprise, the film was not just getting great reviews, but was even getting 20 times better reviews than the K-Wei Kwan action comedy Love Hurts, which is getting trashed by critics.
I know!
I'm gonna get a little bit off topic, but I did see that movie right after Hard Eyes, and I will say that it definitely is not that bad, but it still isn't good. It's like a C. But back to Hard Eyes, after I found out that this was getting great reviews, I kept questioning how. How is this little throwaway slasher film getting all this praise? Again, this was me before seeing a trailer or anything. But then I found out who the writer of this movie was. Christopher Landon, director and writer of, you already know. But what you don't know is that I actually dug the hell out of both of those movies, and once I found that out, I actually got kind of excited for Hard Eyes. I mean, yeah, he's not directing it, that movie comes out in April, but I still think he could probably save the movie as a writer. And guys, I learned a very valuable lesson the night I saw this. Never judge a movie by its poster, because, I'll just say it, Love Hurts is not that good, and it should have been better than it was, and K-Wei Kwan deserves better, but Hard Eyes is an absolute blast. I will say that right off the bat that if you are not a fan of slasher films, I don't think this is gonna work for you. Aside from a possible new slasher icon with the Hard Eyes killer and the fact that he really only kills couples, this movie doesn't bring much new to the table. But you know how people always have that one type of movie that they never get tired of? And for a lot of people, it might be like the musical biopic where you take a famous singer and you tell their story. Unless they do something new and original with it, like Better Man, Elvis, Rocket Man, or Weird the Al Yankovic Story, that's a subgenre that I'm never really that big a fan of. Now the same can be said for slasher movies. For a lot of people, the formula works, but for others, unless it's new and original, they are not a fan. But I'm one of those people who loves the formula of slasher movies and never gets tired of them, especially if they have a fun killer with a recognizable design, and the Hard Eyes killer is no exception. One thing that really gets me excited for a movie like this is when I do believe that we are seeing the birth of a new horror icon. Give it a minute and I can definitely see Hard Eyes becoming the next Art the Clown level icon. Believe me when I say that you will probably be seeing his face in Halloween stores come either this Halloween or definitely next Halloween. I didn't realize this until I was watching this movie, but sometimes my favorite slashers or slasher movies are ones that are holiday themed. Yes, I'm including my boy Art as a holiday slasher because bro took over both Halloween and Christmas. He even has his own Christmas song.
Ring the bells in celebration, it's a Terrifier Christmas.
One thing I wasn't expecting this movie to work so well as, though, was a romantic comedy. Then again, I don't know what I was expecting from a movie that I knew nothing about. Honestly, when you get down to it, and despite a great bloody opening, this is actually a romance movie first, and I really did enjoy the main couple. Okay, they're actually not a couple at first, but the Hard Eyes killer mistakes them for a couple, and this very much plays out like your typical romance movie. They have a meet cute, they end up working for the same company, she's beautiful, he's handsome, and as the night goes on, they really do start to fall for one another. Aww, aren't they just so cute together? Oh, that's right, there's a fucking slasher after them. Enough of the stabby bullshit. Get him, Hard Eyes! Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, this movie plays out so well as a romance film, and I really got caught up in the relationship of the main couple so much that I kind of forgot I was watching a horror movie at one point. And the more I think about it, the more I realize that if you took these two stories and made each their own movies, they'd probably be generic as all hell. But when you combine the two and add in a few bits of humor, it really works great and gets the job done just right. I mentioned earlier that there isn't much different from other slasher movies, but I actually just realized that there is. For one, where most slasher movies start off with the killer's first ever kill, this just starts off with Hard Eye's most recent kill because he's been doing this for almost 2 to 3 years now. So yeah, in a way, he's kind of like the Batman where we don't see a starting point, but we can paint the picture. The other thing is that most slasher icons are usually subjugated to one location. Michael Myers has Haddonfield, Ghostface has Woodsboro, and Art the Clown has Miles County. But as for Hard Eyes, he travels the country killing couples, and I don't think I've ever seen that before in another slasher movie. At least, when it comes to the first film in a horror franchise, because we all know Jason went to Manhattan and space, same goes for the Leprechaun, except replace Manhattan with the Hood. As for the kills, they're a lot of fun, they give you exactly what you want, but I think what makes some of them very memorable is the settings. There's one chase that takes place on a merry-go-round, the opening is at a winery, and probably my favorite scene in the movie is when he shows up to a drive-in theater that's filled with couples. That's actually always one of my favorite scenes in a slasher movie, is when the killer shows up to a location that is surrounded by people who don't expect a thing. Except maybe they do here because everyone knows about Hard Eyes because he travels the fucking country. And I don't know if it was just me, but this really did feel like one of the fastest sits for a movie I've seen in a while. Faster than the 83-minute movie that I saw right afterwards. But as for those negatives, and sometimes this can hurt a movie, but the killer was very predictable. The moment this person appeared on screen, you knew damn well that it was them, and it couldn't have been more obvious. But I will admit that part of it is saved when you find out the motive, because it's actually used as a little throwaway line from someone else earlier in the movie, and I did not expect it to come back into play later on. The other thing, and I saw this coming, the movie did end up having 2/3 acts. You think everything should be wrapping up, but then you realize that the movie still has a little bit while left. But then again, if it ended where you thought it was going to end, I don't think you would have been fully satisfied, at least I wouldn't have. And while I did like the romance aspect of the movie, I will say that at points, it did get to be a little too generic. I mean, I mentioned all the typical romance aspects earlier, but on top of that, they have the most overused generic trope in any romance movie. Meeting up at the airport. Because of course they do. But then again, that ends up not going as expected. One thing I actually kind of love about this movie is that any negative I have does end up coming with a positive of some kind. And I do gotta point out how I did see Love Hurts right after this, and at the end of that movie, they were supposed to do a title drop during the climax, and they didn't, but here in Hard Eyes, they do say Love Hurts at some point. I mean, it was obviously by coincidence, but it kind of feels like Hard Eyes somehow stole Love Hurts' thunder when it came to saying that line. So at first, I thought this was going to be another throwaway horror film, but I did end up having a friggin' blast watching Hard Eyes. Do I think it's one of the great new slasher movies? Great might be stretching it, but it's still a ton of fun. It's got some great kills, 2 enjoyable leads, there's never a dull moment, and I really do think that we got a new horror icon on our hands with the character of the Hard Eyes Killer. If this movie does really good and manages to get a sequel, I'd be down to see another movie with these characters, and I'd like to see this become a new franchise. I mean, who knows? Maybe instead of Hard Eyes and Valentine's Day, they do other holiday-themed slashers, but it still takes place in the same universe with the same characters. As a fan of the slasher genre, I had a great time with this, and I'm hoping to check it out again very soon. And as for all you couples who love horror films and are going to the movies this Valentine's Day, I think this would be a great double feature with Companion, despite that one not being much of a horror movie. But as for me, this movie will be a great reminder that maybe it's okay to be single sometimes. It still sucks though, and I'm not gonna let anyone tell me otherwise. I'm gonna give Hard Eyes a high B+. Actually, when we're on the topic, I just kinda wanna go on a tangent. Valentine's Day just fucking sucks. While all the happy sappy bullshit couples be a lovey-dovey to each other and have fun, we single guys and gals have to sit to the side and question, why don't we have that? I mean, what girl doesn't want a guy who screams about kids' movies online, became known as that Ryan's World movie guy, and surrounds himself with movie memorabilia? Wow, not a goddamn word of that sounded appealing. Yeah guys, I think it's gonna be a while before your good old buddy Trev finds that special someone. At least I'm able to make fun of myself. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. Subscribe to my channel, like this video, turn on the notification bell, and while you're at it, go follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Letterboxd at Trev's Movies, and I'll be back later with more reviews, and I'll see you then.